So, with no further ado, I know what this is going to be is number one.
Yeah, but number one. I think it's quite obvious now, isn't it?
We're sitting
There's
here in the
only,
lobby.
there's only one answer. Yeah.
We're sitting in the lobby of the President's Hotel, just beside the main square in the capital city of.
SAR Experience.
Всем привет! Welcome back to another episode of the Vodka Vodcast with me, Connor Klein. This is the SAR Experience, and today I'm going to be discussing where in the world are the top 5 countries for women, for good girls, we could say maybe, not just based on beauty. I'm here with my buddy Andy Jackson. He's a good friend, and you may recognize him from some of my travel vlogs where he's been wreaking havoc across Eastern Europe with me as we go on these amazing weekends and travel ventures that we have together. So that's what we're going to be discussing in today's video. Let me give you a little bit of context about how we came up with this. Andy, actually, we were discussing yesterday at dinner.
Yeah, we had a bit of an idea, a bit of kind of an epiphany really at dinner, and I think the whole context of this video is all around women as a whole. Obviously we're not looking to objectify women here in any kind of way. I think it's about understanding where you can really sort of find the complete package from based on experiences of places that we've actually traveled personally. So, that obviously includes intelligence, beauty, the fun factor as well, openness, and also as well, I think it's fair to say as well, those that have potential sort of morals in terms of being able to trust and therefore have some kind of longevity attached to them as potential maybe future girlfriends as well. So this is not just trying to a quick score kind of video. This is around a full round package that we two personally think, and this is our top 5.
Exactly. This isn't just a simple 5 most beautiful places for women. This is actually a combination of personality, the likelihood of having rapport as well as beauty and values, and the fun factor, right? Are these girls cool to hang out? Is it going to be an amazing experience to come to the actual country where they live? We've been in Minsk in Belarus, capital of Belarus. It's Andy's second time here. I think it's like mine 5 or 6 time at this stage. We had an amazing, phenomenal weekend. And I'm going to have a vlog about that coming up. I'm going to have 2 travel vlogs that I'm planning for this city, and the second one will be the one that you're going to see a lot of what we got up to here in Minsk over this weekend. So let's get into where we think is the 5 top countries for meeting beautiful, interesting, and good girls, basically, right? So
what's your number 5, Connor?
So we're going to do a little bit of a countdown. We're going to go for 5. Andy and I have traveled to most countries in the world. Like I think we were both about 80 or 90 countries each. So we've got a very good overview, and I've actually made it my personal mission to go to all the countries that had beautiful women in them. So I've kind of done my research, and Andy's been to them all basically as well. So number 5 for me is Lebanon. And very
interesting actually. My number 5 was Israel. So I've never actually been to Lebanon personally, but I was in Israel for the first time last year, and the women are incredibly intelligent and very naturally beautiful as well. Israel has a reputation of national service as well, and it was very interesting to go around and really speak to Israeli women and understand that they are very, very deep individuals as well. In terms of that moral fiber piece, Israeli for me is number 5.
So that's very interesting. When you start off with 2 countries that are right beside each other, don't have the best diplomatic relations at all.
No.
So I've actually been to Israel and to Lebanon. It was always a dream of mine to go to Lebanon because there are a lot of things associated with the country that I was really excited about. And one of those was the food, because I really like Lebanese food. I'd eaten abroad before I went there. Also met a lot of people from Lebanon or of Lebanese descent, and I had just a really good relationship with them, whether they were guys or girls. And number 3, I had read a good bit about the beauty of Lebanese women before I went, so I was also excited actually see what they were like in reality. And I just loved the spirit. I have to say, in the Middle Eastern region, it was by far my favorite country and definitely my best travel experience, even more than being in Israel. I did have a good time in Israel as well. And I did like girls in general. I did find in Israel that for me, having traveled a lot in the former Soviet Union, I had a better rapport with girls who were actually of Russian or Soviet origin as opposed to non-Soviet Israelis, which was kind of an interesting dynamic for me. In Lebanon, girls were very open, very curious. They were definitely high levels of education, and they love to party. Really, for the Middle East is by number one. For a, I mean, it's not. I mean, it is predominantly Arab and Muslim. Of course, Beirut is a capital city. It's not exclusively. It has a big Christian population as well. But I found just everybody. I stayed in a Sunni Muslim middle class neighborhood. Everybody was super friendly to me. Girls' interaction was very approachable. They love to party. It's the kind of a little bit the opposite of maybe the stereotype of the Middle East, where girls are normally expected to be very modest and dressed.
They're extremely liberal. The level of English is fantastic. And if there's one little piece of advice I could give you about Tel Aviv, go to a club called La Clara. That place is bouncing, and you'll get the true Israeli experience there. Yeah.
I wasn't actually in La Clara. Maybe that's why I didn't rank them number 5.
Yeah.
But Lebanese nightlife was really, really good as well. Lots of like Western style clubs. I think actually the two cities had a good bit in common. That's probably not going to make them very popular, seeing they have something similar to each other. But they were basically, Beirut is the most liberal city that I've been on in the Middle East. Dubai is a very different experience because it's liberal for foreigners kind of only, and then not for maybe local people so much. But there was just really good atmosphere. Girls were very beautiful. They definitely were well educated, and they were just a lot of fun to hang around. So that's why I made number 5 over Israel. So number 4, what are we moving to?
Number 4, I'm actually going for Sweden. The reason behind that, I've dated quite a few Swedish girls in my time, and as well as me liking the blonde hair and blue eyes, the Viking kind of look.
We actually have a joke that he is kind of a Viking himself. You should do the DNA test.
I should actually.
Let's see how Scandinavian is.
Probably something from Sweden in there. But Swedish girls, they are incredibly good fun. They're very cheeky, and they're very, very liberal as well. As far as having good fun, as far as going out and enjoying a really good high energy night, Swedish girls certainly take the biscuit as far as that's concerned. And also Sweden as well. It is a little bit more of a conservative country in terms of the actual nightlife. If you were to go out into the bars and clubs, you'll see that it's a little bit more expensive. But obviously Swedish girls make a hell of a lot of effort to make themselves look beautiful, tall blonde hair, and very well refined in many ways, I would say. So for me personally, Sweden is my number 4.
I agree with just about everything that he said, but I didn't have them listed number 4. I actually have Brazil listed as number 4, and this is a country I don't think you've actually been to
yet.
I
haven't.
That's probably why you haven't listed them in your top 5. So Brazilian women. I think when we made this introduction, we didn't say the craziness. We just said fun level, but definitely fun, craziness. Brazilians are probably going to top that in terms of just like wildness, in my experience. Now, the country is so diverse ethnically. There's no real type that you can really say is Brazilian, because they had obviously originally European. First there were the Amerindians, who were there originally before European colonization. You still, at least I've dated girls who were actually part, maybe even half Amerindian. So the native peoples who were there before European colonization. There's obviously Europeans.
Great choice. It's a great choice.
African, they obviously had the highest number of Africans who were brought as slaves originally to work in the plantations in northern Brazil. So just you have this whole melting pot. So basically it doesn't really matter where your preference is. If you like girls who are darker, lighter skinned, Asian features, there's 1 million Japanese living in the state of Sao Paulo. It just has everything, and definitely the fun factor is there. I don't think they're actually, if I was to list in terms of beauty, the average Brazilian would not actually put it as high. I know they have a huge number of international supermodels. That's because of this really, really unbelievable mix of peoples that they have there, that the very creme de la creme, the most beautiful girls, are some of the most beautiful in the world. But I would not say that the average Brazilian girl is as beautiful as some of the other countries we're going to say. But in the very south of the country, which is actually where nearly all the top models come from, I have to say the standard is very high. It's pushing on what you're going to find in this region in Eastern Europe, almost the same. But fun factor, definitely very, very, very high.
Yeah.
So that's an overview of number 4 in our list. Number 3, what did you put, Andy?
I've actually gone for Argentina. So I've just come back from Argentina around 3 weeks ago now, and I was hugely overwhelmed by how incredibly gorgeous the women were. And like I say, there's a real hybrid mix there of Spanish and Italians, and slightly other sort of cultural diversities. But the overriding visualization was dark, blue eyes, extremely elegant, very well dressed, a little bit feisty as well, which I quite like sometimes as well. They have a spark about them. And certainly the nightlife is incredible as well. It goes on to all hours of the evening, and Argentinian girls love to party as well. And above and beyond that as well, one of the things I realised from going on a few dates with Argentinian women as well is they're actually very loyal. So I think if you do get into a situation with an Argentinian girl, as beautiful as they are as well, they're always going to be loyal, and they really rest on the principles that are driven into them from a young age within the kind of Argentinian society. So for me personally, that's a really attractive feature, and something which was quite obvious, during my time in Argentina. So personally, number 3, Argentina.
Okay, good for Argentina. I didn't list them in my top 5, but we'll see in the honorable mentions. Maybe they get in there. I also have been to Argentina and had a fantastic time, although I have to confess I actually dated a Brazilian when I was there. So I think that probably says more about my preferences than even in Argentina.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I put number 3 as Sweden, actually. So you've already given basically the same reasons why I picked Swedish. I think really sophistication is really, really one of the top ones. Not only Swedish girls, for me the most beautiful girls in the world outside of Eastern Europe, because we're talking about obviously Scandinavia, Northern Europe, just their level of sophistication and style, as well as loving to go out and party and actually being liberal and being independent, I think gives them just an all-round amazing package. And I think definitely for me the standout country outside of Eastern Europe, outside of Brazil or Latin America, Argentina, like Andy said, that's for me definitely the best, and that's why I put them number 3 on the list. So number 2.
Cool. I have gone for Ukraine. Boom.
A country very close to my heart.
Very close to your heart, Connor. Perhaps not as close to my heart personally, but I have travelled to Ukraine maybe 8 or 9 times now. I've been to Kiev. I've travelled down to Odessa in the summer. So I've had a good experience as to what the overall feel is like. Obviously, Ukrainian women have a big reputation for producing some seriously attractive international models, and they are very traditional as well in the way that they think, the way that they operate. They're very motherly, and I think potentially very good wife material, Ukrainian women, deep down in terms of the practicalities that they offer.
I'm more skeptical about that personally.
maybe some of the drawbacks that I've maybe experienced are perhaps around the fact that they are such a poor country, and therefore are always looking for an opportunity to meet a foreigner and perhaps remove themselves from what is a quite difficult environment, really. So that definitely works against them. But I think in terms of their actual beauty, I think in terms of their potential mateability, I think Ukrainian women offer a really interesting and wonderful option there, if you meet the right one. And I think I really emphasize that, the right one.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point to make about Ukrainian women. Of course, I have my videos, which actually Andy helped inspire to a certain extent. Not only Andy, but a lot of my other British friends who visited me in Odessa and in Kiev in Ukraine. These videos, I'm going to link them up in cards above and also down the description below the video. It's 5 reasons never to date a Ukrainian girl, 5 more reasons never to date a Ukrainian girl. And I did kind of relent to make a video about why to date them. But basically, I think what he's referring to in terms of the right one, that there is a selection bias that happens a lot in Ukraine. If you arrive as a foreigner, you don't speak Russian, there's a certain group of girls that are going to target you. Unfortunately, the gold diggers or the girls who are scammers, for example, that's why a lot of foreign guys have bad experiences.
Yeah.
And then you refer to girls who are like looking for a way out of the country. I think there's actually a very small minority of the girls in Ukraine. I think most Ukrainian girls actually want to stay in Ukraine and marry actually a Ukrainian guy. That's just been my overall impression, spent a lot of time there. But if you visit for a short time, the girls who are looking for a way out, of course, you arrive and you're a British guy who's obviously well-to-do, then they're going to see that and target you. And that's why there can be this kind of bias in terms of a lot of foreign guys, not just Andy or my other friends, but just in general, meeting these kind of girls who have an agenda.
Yeah.
Now, I have to say that I didn't really think too much about what I was going to put number one or number two, because I was actually going to make another video about who's better in terms of the girls and leaders. But since we're onto this now, and I've kind of have to preempt it a little bit, I'll go in more detail in another video very soon. Who do I rather date, Ukrainians? And the number one country for me, which is coming afterwards, I actually put Ukraine as number two as well. So,
Interesting.
and for me, I mean, if you've watched this channel regularly, you know that I'm a huge fan of Ukraine as a country, and it's I made videos explaining why I spent so much time in Odessa and Ukraine. It's not just women, but of course the women are a huge factor, and Ukrainian women are some of the most beautiful in the world. And I think just the average looking girl, as opposed to what I mentioned with Brazil, the average looking girl is extremely good looking in Ukraine. I think they're fun, they're a little bit crazy. Ukraine is pretty much a lawless country a lot of the time. There is that kind of spirit of being very spontaneous that I find really attractive. And I think actually when you get the right Ukrainian girl, to quote what Andy just said, I think, yeah, they could be for a long-term relationship, I think just really probably the best place to go to. But you do have this kind of bias. And on the other side, when you start to try to, as someone who's learned Russian, when you try to integrate more into Ukrainian side, you have to overcome a lot of barriers as a foreigner, because they're basically suspicious of a lot of the foreign guys who come to Ukraine. You have a lot of sex tourism. You have a lot of guys who come from countries in the Middle East who are not really serious about the girls, or they're just obsessively chasing girls all the time. And this has created a bad reputation for foreign guys. And I think that creates that barrier that is harder to overcome. So I think as a country, I'm going to put it number two. It is an amazing country for beautiful women. It does have certain issues that, me as someone who speaks Russian, Andy as someone who hasn't learned it yet, we basically face slightly different issues there, but overall it's a phenomenal place for meeting amazing women. So, with no further ado, I know what this is going to be as number one.
Yeah,
but
number one. I think it's quite obvious now, isn't it?
We're sitting here
There's
in the lobby.
only one answer.
We're sitting in the lobby of the President's Hotel, just beside the main square in the capital city of
Minsk.
Belarus. Yes, Belarus is our number one. Belarus is number one in something finally in the world other than potato production and alcoholic consumption.
And I think it's fair to say, Connor, we've both been absolutely blown away by the all-round standard of women here in Belarus.
Yes.
Especially
here in Minsk. I think Minsk is really an amazing city to come to and visit. And like what I've noticed, just how open everybody is. Like not just the girls, but also the guys are really friendly to us here. The atmosphere has been great. Women in general are really, really sweet, open, curious, extremely beautiful. There isn't. I mean, it's hard for me to say. I have to travel all over Belarus, but the difference who's more beautiful per se between Ukraine and Belarus is not very clear. It's pretty close. I would say maybe the slightly Eastern Ukraine is slightly better, but
yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree with you on that. I think the differential in terms of beauty is there's very little in that, but I think it's the actual caliber of the people really. That the women are far more open to discussion and learning and interacting with foreign guys. We and also we've had a lot of good fun with the girls here as well. They want to enjoy themselves. They want to let their hair down. They want to dance. They want to do karaoke. They want to do shots with you at the bar.
By the way, this is the first time I think I've ever really sung karaoke, and we didn't just do it just once, but twice for hours.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a huge hit, right?
Yeah.
It was a huge hit.
That was the level of fun we were having. Fun factor very high. I would say nowadays, fun factor here with Belarusian women versus Ukrainian women is definitely higher here. I also think there's less of an agenda. With most Belarusian women, I think they're not as there aren't as many gold diggers, and definitely not as many scammers as a lot of foreign guys income. So I think that issue, if you don't speak Russian, for example, this is going to be a lot better place to come to for sure, because you're going to have less issues, I think, as a native speaker.
Absolutely. I think I can speak from experience here in terms of not speaking Russian. I speak extremely basic Russian, and still had a great time with girls who didn't really speak overwhelmingly good English as well. There was a commonality, that common goal in terms of let's have fun.
Yeah.
Let's have fun. I think that was very obvious from the word go, really. So even though my conversations weren't necessarily as deep and meaningful as maybe what it would be like for a native speaker, for myself, we still had a really amazing time, really. They were very receptive to us as well.
Yeah.
So
definitely that was very high. I do think, and the fact that they don't get to travel as much, and they don't get to meet other foreigners, obviously that's a double-edged sword, because they're more open and more curious than, say, Ukrainians are going to be, because it's overrun by foreigners and there's a very bad perception of them, whilst here is the opposite. But at the same time, they were just not as experienced or as kind of worldly, and there's a little bit of, I found personally, especially speaking Russian, a little bit more of a gap in terms of relating with in general than I would find, say, in Ukraine or in Russia, right, where women get to travel a lot more, and I think they're just a lot more exposed to things that are international. But in terms of fun, trust factor for us with the girls and for the girls with us was extremely high, and I think that's definitely for me probably the biggest difference between here and Ukraine is the level of trust, that I can trust the girls and that they can trust me, was just like really, really high, and that made it a pretty phenomenal weekend.
And it made everyone feel much more comfortable as well.
Yeah.
In everyone's company. So that was really evident.
So that's our top 5, but I didn't want to make this video. This is like a lot of what I've seen when I was doing my research online, where it's like everybody, it's the mainstream politically correct version, where you're going to have pick one African country, one Latin American country, one Asian country, and just pretend everyone's the same. This is actually what we really think, having traveled to all the continents, where you're going to find the best women, right, in terms of beauty and also personality and education and intelligence. But I would like to throw in some honorable mentions that, because we can only list 5 countries, and that's quite a small number.
Yeah.
And there are other countries I've been to where I've just had an amazing time. And I think they're really great places to meet amazing women as well, but they didn't make our top 5. So, Andy, go ahead and give us maybe just a little bit of a taste of the countries you've been to that you thought were interesting, maybe outside of. We basically talked about 2 regions, basically.
Yeah, I think in terms of honourable mentions, I think South Korea. Seoul is an amazing party place. Seoul is my favourite city in the whole of Asia. It's got great vibrancy. People are very fashionable. They speak great English. And interestingly as well, this was a big observation of mine, and something that I educated myself slightly further on as to try and understand why. South Korea is the #1 plastic surgery country in the world.
It used to be Lebanon, used to be Brazil. So it's funny how this is now switched over
things
to
have
Asia.
switched, and it is to do with the education system and looking as refined and as you possibly can on your university application form. But you certainly go to a lot of the clubs, and the girls are very, very cute. Very cute indeed, clearly they look after themselves in many different ways, really. So, and also they like to drink as well. Doesn't necessarily sound like the best thing in terms of advertisement, but they like to drink. And I certainly know from my experience of being in Seoul as well, I got invited across to a lot of tables. They want to be Western in terms of the way that they act, the way that they look, and that opportunity for them to spend time with guys like myself and my friends as well was extremely appealing to them as well. So as a consequence, we got a lot of attention, and we had a thoroughly good time. So I'd certainly say South Korea is wonderful. As Connor mentioned, I've never actually been to Brazil, but I have actually dated quite a few Brazilian girls. And just yeah, absolutely. And I think just to kind of just to put my own spin on that, they are extremely passionate and wonderfully good fun. And as Concha mentioned as well, they do have their whole kind of history with the whole fake boob kind of industry.
Yes, definitely.
Which, when you're out on a beach, is
a lot
always
of eye candy.
Yeah, a lot of eye candy. It's good viewing. But certainly, as I mentioned, I've dated a few Brazilian girls and always had great experiences. And they really dote on you. They give you a lot of their attention, and they expect a lot of attention back in return. Which is, if you're into that and you like that really close connection, Brazilian women are really something special.
They can be crazy. obsessive stalkers.
They can be. They can be. There's a fine line. There's a fine line. And actually, my final mention here is actually Iceland. So I've been to Iceland 3 times now. I have some good Icelandic friends, and they've taken me on nights out downtown in Reykjavik. And Icelandic women are absolutely gorgeous. They're very strong, strong-minded, strong-willed, and if they like the look of you, they will hunt you down.
Quite literally hunt you down.
Yeah, they've got that Viking mentality between their ears, between other parts of their body that I won't go into. But certainly my experiences in Iceland have always been extremely fun. And obviously, not being an Icelandic guy in such a close-knit environment, they see me as an obvious choice on a night out as well, given the fact that I don't share their Icelandic blood. And
DNA diversity.
Yeah, absolutely. So certainly every time I've been to Iceland, I've had a wonderful time, and they are very special women who will show you a very special time.
Awesome. I've been to Iceland. It was a fun time. I found them extremely sexually liberal, open, and not afraid to just
Let
go
loose.
for it. Yeah,
Let
exactly.
loose.
I had a fun time. I didn't actually put them down as one of my honorable mentions, but I guess I just copy his a little bit and say they definitely deserve, they merit that. I would say for me, first country honorable mention is Lithuania.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's very close, obviously, to where we are now. I just find Lithuanian women elegant. I like girls who are tall, very slim. Definitely, they tick those boxes. And every time I've gone to Lithuania, I've had a lot of fun. I've met great girls, both beautiful and fun to be around. So for me, it's kind of a little bit of personal idiosyncrasy to say Lithuania. I'm not sure anyone else really shares that over the other countries around it, but for me personally, it's just been a great place to go to. It is quite small. The level of English, if you're interested, was pretty high. I don't speak Lithuanian, so that also probably helped a lot for me. Other one, we've left out the big bear, Russia. Definitely deserves an honorable mention. I don't spend as much time there because Russia makes me get a visa, and that's just a pain in the ass to go and do. And I'd rather just come here, which is 30 days visa free in Minsk, or go to Ukraine, which is 90 days visa free every 180, and that's why I've spent less time. But also Russia is, has a little bit more maybe diversity in its ethnic mix and in its DNA than Belarus or Ukraine necessarily, because obviously its empire extended right over to the east. You get a lot of girls from Central Asia as well. Also, maybe I should give Kazakhstan an honorable mention. I had a lot of fun in Almaty. Almaty was very good as a place, and there you have still 35% Russian. And then the other is a mix of obviously Kazakhs and other Central Asians. So that whole kind of area for me is a place that obviously there's a lot of beautiful women, and it's reasonably similar to here. You're right that there are a lot of differences. There's definitely distinct differences between Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine, but you do have a certain commonality both in their appearance and in their values and behavior. Although when you get to know it, we've started to notice some interesting differences. So other places I should give an honorable mention to, I think Argentina, that's a very good call to include. I just had more fun in Brazil. To be honest, I didn't rate it as high. Other places that we should mention that for me, no, I think that's pretty much it. Israel as well is another good place, but Andy's already covered that.
Yeah.
Colombia, I've actually never been to Colombia.
Never been.
So that's why we left it off.
It's on my 2019 travel agenda. Colombia.
So we may need to make a follow-up video next year. After maybe Colombia is going to be just throw off all the what you call it, the rankings here that we've given it today. But I definitely gets honorable mention. I've met a lot of amazingly beautiful Colombians who are fun. Not sure I really rated things like education and commonality as much for me personally as I did the other countries, but definitely beauty and fun because they like to dance, the music. Definitely a good country. And I need to make a point. What month are you going in?
I'm thinking of going in May or June this year, so
Okay,
I'll keep you posted. But
we normally talk about the raw east of Europe on my channel. Actually, we only talk about that, but maybe I'll take a little bit of a vacation and go to Colombia and just film some other stuff.
Sure.
Great. I think that's all we have time for in this video. We give you an overview, not just my personal knows Andy. We've traveled a huge amount. We've traveled together, with different groups of common-minded people around the world. And this is what we feel. As I said, this is not some mainstream version. You got actually from two guys who actually know what they're talking about, actually travel to all these countries, not some bland list of countries you're supposed to like to be politically correct. If you have your own ideas in mind, maybe you didn't like your list, maybe you think it's complete BS, and in fact, you know, that, I don't know, other countries, like I didn't mention Venezuela, for example, or maybe you just think that South Africa is amazing, right below in the comments below. We created this great community of guys who just love to travel, primarily in Eastern Europe, and meet beautiful women and build really amazing relationships with them on these travel adventures. So definitely share your experiences below in the comments section. You're helping not just me or Andy, but also all of you other guys out there who are following, and you get to read each other's comments. If you've liked the video, give it a thumbs up. That's important so that I see exactly how much you've enjoyed it. I use that as a big metric. I don't look so much at how many views every video gets, because a lot of times that's just the thumbnail or the title. In fact, I put some, you know, pretty girl on it, makes 1 million people click it as opposed to 1,000 if it's my ugly mug on the thumbnail. So, but I really look at the likes, and that tells me how much you've enjoyed this content. So please do that. If you've gotten to the end of a 30-minute video and you're not a subscriber, then you're probably never going to subscribe at this stage. But make sure that after you press that red subscribe button, you whack the notification bell beside it so that you're notified whenever I upload content here on YouTube. Otherwise, with the algorithm changes, they don't notify you. But if you're enjoying this content, then hit the notification bell and you get updated. That's all that we have time for in this video. We're going to go out. It's actually Andy's last evening here in Minsk, the capital of Belarus, and we're going to go out and give it an appropriate farewell from this beautiful city of beautiful, warm, friendly people. Looking forward to seeing all your smiling, enthusiastic faces for beautiful women all over the world at this stage in the very next video. Do svidaniya from Minsk, Belarus. See you in the next one.
SAR Experience.